I had an assignment from Time to photograph Michael Phelps for the cover. This is the Olympics prior to the one when he won 10,000 gold medals. This was in 2004. I wanted to show off his body, right? He has square boobs. I don't have square boobs, right? That's all friends of mine, like, guys don't look like that. That's not how men look. But I didn't want to do the sort of retro black and white, body beautiful kind of pictures, because what's cool about him is that he's an Olympic athlete, and I sort of wanted to show him in the context of being a swimmer. So I'd hoped to photograph him at the pool at Stanford, which is where he was training in California. But we found out, because it was too close to the Olympics, that we actually were not going to be able to use the pool. They were going to be training there. So we worked in a photographer studio nearby in Stanford. And that was going to be it. We'd have to set up in a studio. And in this case, I really felt like I had to work out my lighting ahead of time. It wasn't just going to be like a big umbrella or softbox or something. I wanted it to feel like the light had been coming from the pool, right? Kind of pool lighting. Like at night, you know, they get that blue glow, sort of. So that's what I was going for. I got hold of a swimmer, not an Olympic athlete swimmer, but just a swimmer to come in, because I could stand there, but then I wouldn't look like a swimmer. So we got somebody to stand in who kind of have the body for it. And initially what I thought is I would light the person with fluorescent lights all around him and on the floor to give that kind of glow. But I was photographing this with an 8x10 camera, and there just simply wasn't enough light. From the fluorescent lights, it was like, you know, a week at f11 or something. You know, just there wasn't going to be enough. So it had to be strobes. So the next thing I did is I used strip softboxes and set those on the floor, right? Except that they sit up too high even when they're on the floor. They're like 3 feet off the ground, so I had to have the guy on a platform, and that just got to be a nightmare. So what I decided to do was actually to make my own little light sources out of just foam core, and just razor bladed up some foam core and made, in a sense, what would be like a strip light at this point. This was prior to strip lights, but basically it would have been a strip light. It was 4 feet long by 6 inches high, by 6 inches across, right? And we just stuck Profoto head into the very end of it, maybe even in both ends, I don't recall offhand, to light up the strip, and it had diffusion on top, right? If I were shooting this tomorrow, what I would do is I'd have 4 4-foot strip lights, right? And that would achieve the same thing, except better, because it'd be a real tool that's actually made for the job. So he was actually surrounded by those on the floor. There were 3 or 4 of them around him. And that gave that kind of uplighting with blue gels to give it that blue of the pool. And then there was another homemade strip light that had a CTO warm gel in it, and that's actually providing the front light for him, in a sense, the key light, sort of. The kind of tricky thing about the picture that's kind of neat is, since we couldn't use a pool, I'd rented a painted backdrop that sort of looked like water. It was kind of blue, swirly, streaky thing. And one of the reasons to shoot it on 8x10 and to shoot pretty wide open was to tip the lens, and that way it would go more and more and more out of focus. It would give the illusion of water receding into the distance. I'm very meticulous about that stuff. We wrote down all the measurements and the sizes and the distances and the f-stops and all that stuff, even the settings on the camera. And then we basically cut up the foam core thing, packed it into a case, shipped it out to Palo Alto, and reassembled it in this guy's studio. And pretty much like the first test shot, the first Polaroid looked like this picture. And that's how it was done. And I think he was shocked when he saw it, because to stand there, it didn't feel like you're in a pool. It didn't feel like the painted backdrop behind you was water. Like none of it made sense. And all of a sudden you see the Polaroid and it's like, oh my God, it actually looks like the real deal. So to me, there's sort of 2 kinds of lighting in the world of photography. There's one kind of lighting that you do to simulate ambient lighting situations. So it looks like light coming from a lamp, or it looks like light coming from the pool, right? And there's another kind of lighting you do that you just do because it looks cool and who cares, right? Just, it looks good. It's creatively, it's what you want to achieve. In this case, it was the former. It was the kind of lighting that was done specifically to mimic pool light, the glow of pool light.